Craig, welcome back. Great to see you again. It's been a while since we caught up, but first of all, I want to thank you and the Port of Newcastle for being the platinum sponsor for the Australia and New Zealand Shipping and Logistics Conference. And first question to you is, why? What motivated you to take on the platinum sponsorship?
Well, first of all, lovely to see you too, Paul. Look, we're actually really motivated to sponsor the inaugural Australian and New Zealand Shipping and Logistics Conference. It is an incredibly important part of the world, right? The Trans-Tasman relationship, and we can just keep growing. We know we need each other, and what you're doing here by bringing all those people together to be able to talk about the opportunities, how we can actually better align and make the actual trade and logistics more simple. I mean, really, as a major port in Australia, how could I not want to be behind that?
Terrific. Really appreciate it. And again, just so the audience sort of get an appreciation, everybody knows the Port of Newcastle, but traditionally knows it for steel, then around coal and the major exports through there. People will be asking, well, why? Where's the connection then? And, you know, I've had the opportunity to interview and talk to you in the past and a lot of your team. I got a bit of an understanding about the multi-purpose terminal. And also understand there's some exciting things happening around renewables and project work there. I think that's where it all sort of comes together. But maybe as a starting point, maybe if you could give us a bit of an update on the multi-purpose terminal and how that's shaping up.
Yeah, so the multi-purpose terminal we started 2 years ago. It was our first foray into, we want containers at the Port of Newcastle. All the obstacles, government-related obstacles, are now out of our way. So it's now really up to us to get on with it. So we're now, we built the multi-purpose terminal. We're actually now just extending the berth. We're moving the berth up to 320 metre LOA. Now that will actually allow us to handle a lot of the vessels that call the east coast of Australia. And whilst we've got that, we're building a bit more landside to actually facilitate the trade. Once that infrastructure is in place, then obviously it's a lot easier to go out and actually start selling our wares. You know what it's been like when we last talked. Over the last 2 years, I've been saying we are planning to. Now, finally, we're actually starting to build. So that's an important moment for us. On the broader container terminal play, this is the year of planning. I don't want to have a shot at the New South Wales government, but it takes a long time to get planning approvals in New South Wales. We're starting that process now. It's a weird thing because as the legacy company that we are, we used to be government owned. The first step we actually have to do is remove all these old antiquated planning approvals and then get new planning approvals. So that's exactly what we're doing now. It'll take a couple of years. And then as you mentioned, renewables, this is what's taking up so much of my time at the moment. Coal remains very strong at the port, but anybody who says they know what the future of coal looks like is either trying to sell you something or I think would probably be telling you fibs. We're not waiting for that day. We're trying to build the new business now so that there isn't a crisis in the future for the port or in our community. Renewables has come out of nowhere, quite honestly. I know everybody's been talking about it, but the scale of the undertaking has surprised us. I just came from a meeting this morning. We are being asked at the Port of Newcastle to facilitate 10,000 wind turbines by the end of the decade. Wow. It's already 2026. Wow. It is fair to say I sat through that meeting with a bit of a dry mouth. I mean, nothing's been done like this. And to give you a sense of the scale of the undertaking, we currently have 69 wind turbines at the port. It's for the Squadron Energy project down at Ugula. It's 69 wind turbines, but with that comes 897 components. So the next project we're being asked to handle is 185 wind turbines. And the blades are going up to 90 metres. That's what we're about to move into. 90 metre blades with give you an idea, a base tower of 17 metres. So, diameter. So we now have reached out around the world. Nobody has ever tried to do so much so quickly. What we're now doing is we are sitting down, spending so much time looking at the entire supply chain and logistics, from a wind turbine being built in, say, China, arriving at the Port of Newcastle, getting it onto a convoy, getting it up through the valley, out onto the Golden Highway, down to one of the renewable energy zone projects. You know this business. You can imagine how many touch points I just announced, from National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, Transport for New South Wales, Planning for New South Wales, finding the trucking company with enough trucks, with enough people, with enough forklifts. I mean, the meeting that I had this morning is just pages and pages of, I mean, for our industry, for our sector, this is going to be amazing. The one comfort I have, and it was said at the meeting this morning, we have actually been doing this for 23 years. This is exactly what we do with coal. Every single day in the Hunter Valley Coal Coordination Chain, that's what we do. Well, now what we're trying to do is reverse it.
So where does the port's responsibility start and end with all of this? Like you said, it won't work unless the whole supply chain works. Do you just focus on your bit at the port, or are you taking on a broader project management role to try and bring all the stakeholders together?
We're taking on a broader one. And look, I'm sure there'll be people who would sit there and go, that's not your core business, right? Your core business starts at the channel and ends at the security gate as the truck drives out. But the problem is, so most ports around the world don't actually want to do renewables because they take up a lot of space. And if there's any delay in the project, the delivery side, you end up being a storage facility. You end up being a car park for wind turbines who take up so much land. My view is we have to be part of this, right? We're the only port that can handle it. We're 96% of renewables coming into New South Wales. Nobody else can do what we can do. So the government is relying on us. We need to do this. We also, the Port of Newcastle, we have a clean energy precinct. Well, that clean energy precinct will never sell clean energy to Asia unless it has green electrons. Well, these wind turbines are part of that green electron future. So it is a circular economy for us. So yeah, you're right. I could just sit there and go, only the port. But you imagine a project runs behind time and all of a sudden I've got, my layup area is full and I've got more heavy lifts coming down, because that's how it works. It's a conveyor belt. Once the developer engages for these wind turbines, as soon as they're built, they don't keep them on site either. They're not a storage facility. So they just push them onto a ship and push them down to the destination port. So my single biggest pinch point is that product has to flow through the port and get out of the port and up to the project. If I took the attitude of, it's not my problem beyond the boundary fence,
It becomes your problem.
it becomes my problem.
So what about other ports around the country? Obviously, Port of Newcastle is going to have a vital role here in New South Wales. Similar initiatives happening in other ports around the country?
Western Australia, Port Pilbara is absolutely involved. They've already developed a lot of for their Pilbara hydrogen hub. I know the Queensland government's very much looking at Gladstone. I've been encouraging, and call out to the Port of Flinders, but I've been encouraging people to look at Adelaide. Port of Brisbane, I know, is very heavily involved in the Queensland effort. So I think the challenge is, because our capital city ports are so, they're container ports, they're very constrained as far as the urban development around them. This task is going to fall more to the regional ports. Regional ports around Australia, we've got a lot of infrastructure, but it would be fair to say we also all know the connecting infrastructure to regional ports it's not that well looked after. It always comes down to we're in big regional electorates, probably that don't get the necessary political tension that might otherwise see money flow. It's also a population-based thing. But if we're now doing the single biggest industrial change since the Industrial Revolution, which is what the energy transition looks like, the truth is there is going to have to be money spent on the supply chain, the logistics, and all the connecting networks to our regional ports.
Yeah. And look, final question. You touched on that the port has a focus around sustainability. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, besides bringing in the turbines to support the state and the nation? But what's the port doing within its own right? What's the focus there?
We've been doing this now for a while. We were very much motivated when I took over in 2018. As the world's largest exporting coal port, we couldn't, that is not a good idea. That's not the slogan you want to be selling. So very much a big part of it, we had to refinance people weren't investing in fossil fuel or fossil fuel adjacent infrastructure. We had to prove that we were genuine in our diversification efforts. And one of the ways we started that was our ESG. So things, for example, we run a 10 gigawatt high voltage network at the port. That is now fully renewable energy. It took us a couple of years to do, but that was one of our early efforts to go, well, if we're going to sit there and say we're developing a clean energy precinct, we want to be involved in renewables. But I was using electricity from a coal-fired power station. You know, you can imagine how the investors would have rolled their eyes at that. So we're fully renewable. We turned our entire fleet over to electric vehicles. We're actually into the second generation of company fleet that are all EVs. One of the things that we're incredibly proud of, we worked with the University of Newcastle and the Newcastle coal terminals. What we do, we had we have a swampland, very toxic from the old days. We have worked really hard, and what has happened is an endangered frog species has actually gone from being endangered to a thriving little community now. And by preserving that area, and also migratory birds have returned. And we did that, and you know, it's cost a bit of money, but we did that to prove that an industrial port can actually work with natural fauna and flora. And like the two can coexist, because the single biggest challenge we get from issue motivated groups against ports is, you know, apparently, you know, we all kill the environment, we poison the waters that we operate on, which is just not true. Any conversation with any CEO of any port in Australia, the amount of effort that goes into protecting our environment and making sure the waterways of our port are as clean and pristine as we possibly can. And I suppose, you know, for us, we always point to, we were the port that BHP was, when BHP was the largest integrated steelworks in the world. They used to pump that stuff straight into the harbour. Like there was nothing in that harbour. We now have a dolphin pod that comes back every year.
Yeah, I've seen them.
With their little ones. Right? That is how much it has changed at the port. And so, yeah, it is us doing the right thing. It is us responding to our community. But quite honestly, all we are custodians of this infrastructure. These ports are the lifeblood of Australia. The people who have the honour to run it, we get that. We also get that there are going to be generations after us running it. And it's a proud thing to do. So.
Well, Craig, that's probably a good way to finish up the interview. You will be presenting at the conference. You'll be leading a keynote presentation around ESG, some of the issues that we've been talking about now. Look forward to, if I don't see you before August, I look forward to seeing you in August. And again, thank you for your ongoing support.
And I'm sure we will catch up before August.
Thanks, Craig.